Hello and welcome to StarShipSofa's HQ. Today we're going to look at the novella StarShipSofa's just ran called The Men of Greywater Station by the one, the only Mr. George R.R. Martin. A short story that was wrote in the 70s. We were lucky enough to kind of get that on StarShipSofa and have it narrated. So today it's just a little chat about that story. I'm trying my best not to give any spoilers away. If you want to kind of listen to the story first, come over to StarShipSofa podcast and you will listen to it there in all its glory. Then come back and we'll have a little chat. Yes, so StarShipSofa, like I say, was very proud to run George R. R. Martin and Howard Waldrop's story called The Men of Greywater Station. This is a novella that came out in the 70s. I mean, it was first published in Amazing Stories, which was the March 1976 edition that was edited by Ted White. Then George R. R. Martin put it in his collection Songs of Stars and Shadows, which was the July 1977. And I've got a cornet edition there, which is my little book. And when we got actually this story to narrate, it was pretty hard to kind of find a copy because, you know, George R. R. Martin is so kind of, I guess, important, you know, and kind of favourable at the moment. You know, it's hard to get, you know, and copies were going for a ridiculous price. I think this is like an out of print collection there. And just to try and track down this physical book so we can kind of give it to a narrator to read was, you know, a difficult task. But like I say, I'm here to talk about the story, and it's one of them stories that for me is a kind of enclosed little world where everything seems to just be like kind of done right from a kind of a writer's point of view. And I'll tell you why. And like I say, you know, go and listen to the story because we don't want to kind of put any spoilers here. You know, I'm trying my best not to. But the reasons why I like it, these are the reasons. First off, it's the tension, you know, George R. R. Martin and Howard Waldrop, you know, build this tension up from the kind of opening passage. You know from the onset that something's going to happen at the end of the story. And with each kind of progression in the story, this mountain tension is coming. And that's, you know, it keeps you going in the story, it keeps you thinking, what on earth's going to happen? You know, you're always kind of wanting, what on earth's going to happen? And I think it brings in as well what I always kind of think is a kind of fundamental, you know, you need this fundamental fact in, you need hope in with stories. You know, science fiction stories, you know, give you hope. And you are hoping something's going to come good of this story because, you know, as you move on, you know, Martin and Waldrop have just mountain this kind of anxiety, you know, this kind of claustrophobic, you know, little prism of a story. It's getting tense and more tense, you know, to this kind of final outcome. That's a clever little kind of trick that's been used just to keep you going forward, to keep you, you know, momentum going. And like I say, the story was wrote in the kind of 70s when, you know, George R. R. Martin was kind of at his height of his kind of, you know, science fiction powers there. And now he's, you know, he's known for his kind of fantasy work. But at the time, you know, like I say, when he wrote this, it'd be interesting to find out. I don't actually know how it was wrote, but I mean, we're talking like 76 when it came out, so possibly 75 when it was wrote. How did Howard Waldrop and George R. R. Martin write this story? Because you're talking typewriters. Do you know what I mean? Do the sits, you know, and kind of one write out a page, post it over, you know, because that's the only way I can kind of think of, unless they were at maybe say some convention, some weekend together, and they just sat down in a room and they just went for it and just kind of wrote the story in one kind of blizzard of a kind of, you know, creative whirlwind. So at this moment, I have no idea how this story kind of came together. I know that, you know, Howard Waldrop's done this a few times, you know, in collaboration with different writers. And, you know, he's got a kind of short story collection out there. So he's done it a few times. I'm not too sure about George R. R. Martin, if it's his kind of bag of fish, you know, if it's his kind of, you know, he likes to do that. So, but it'd be interesting to find out, you know, were they just, you know, sent off in an envelope, you know, the kind of the first draft of the story, then Waldrop kind of, you know, added little bits to it. It'd be interesting to find out that. And I'll tell you, you know, one more reason why I kind of like the story is, and again, I'm trying my best not for, you know, any spoilers there, but the ending you know, like you say, you know this kind of this mountain doom's coming. Do you know what I mean? And all the, you know, there's a lot of characters in there to kind of get your head around, and that's, I think, the job of a good narrator, kind of distinguish them. And like I say, on the StarShipSofa show, you know, we've got Nick Cam, who did a remarkable job. And every, you know, all these kind of facets are kind of taking you to this kind of ending. You know what I mean? This is what you're kind of building up to. It's an hour and a half long story, but it's all pointing in that direction to the ending. And the trick, you know, or a lesser writer, you know, of kind of, and both these writers are, you know, are kind of giants in the field. A lesser writer would have just had, you know, trying not my best to kind of spoil it, just a bit of a gloomy ending. Do you know what I mean? With a kind of, yeah, that's what happened, bang, everyone's, you know, gone and finished. Where in the hands of these writers, and I've never seen it coming, do you know what I mean? It's such like a bitter sweet ending. Do you know what I mean? You kind of, you know, things are going horribly wrong. You know, they're on this kind of planet, they're enclosed in this kind of claustrophobic environment. It always gives, you know, it's always like almost like Alien, you know, that kind of intense feeling. And this ending, you know, for me, I never seen it coming. You know, I knew something bad was going to happen, but the kind of little twist, the bitter end, you know, the bittersweet twist, just came at the right time, and it's like, ah, oh, right, ah, man, oh, God, you know what I mean? Just finished it off. And like I say, in the hands of a lesser writer, that would have kind of just kind of been muddled and broken and not work at all. And, you know, the nice thing as well is, like, this is the first time online that this story's now come to life again. You know what I mean? StarShipSofa has been given the privilege to kind of get this out there. Do you know what I mean? Just a little background how we got it out. You need a good assistant editor. Jeremy Salz is our assistant editor, and Jeremy took to this, you know, he had this idea, he wanted a story of George R. R. Martin, and, you know what I mean, give the lad credit, you know what I mean, like a little kind of terrier dog. He wasn't going to let, you know, he had this bone, he wasn't going to let it go. And, you know, George R. R. Martin's kind of up, you know what I mean, even if he kind of wanted to kind of talk to it, you know, just too busy, do you know what I mean? But Jeremy there kept on, just kept on. And like I say, it's out of print. He hasn't got copies. You know, I think George R. R. Martin offered to kind of send over a copy, like a print copy, but there's no digital formats. And that's how we kind of had to do it. Do you know what I mean? Get some digital, you know, get some books and send it over to the narrator, who's had to physically read from a book. You know, there's no kind of nice fancy layout there. It's all being kind of read from a book. So it'd be interesting to find out, you know, if you go and listen to the story, what do you think about that story? Did you like it? Did you like the ending? Did you think it was too long, too short? Characters. Now here's, it's always my kind of bugbear. You know, characters is one of the main facets of a story. You kind get your characters right, you've lost me straight away. Do you know, and I just thought, like I say, there was a lot of characters in this, and you can't devote that much time. You know, you've got to have the kind of the correct words there to get these characters' lives to come, you know, alive on the page or on the digital, in the ear. You know, I thought Martin and Waldrop did that perfectly, just perfect. Do you know what I mean? The narrator, Nick Cam, brought these to life even more. But you might have different opinions. Go and listen to the story at StarShipSofa.com. Let us know what you think. Did you like the story? You know what I mean? It's George R. R. Martin, science fiction. We don't normally think of George R. R. Martin as science fiction. But like I say, in the kind of the 70s, you know, this guy was the kind of one of the powerhouses of science fiction writers. You know what I mean? Just dominating the field. Let us know what you think. Did you like it? It would be fantastic. Put some comments down below and let us know. Until next time, I would just like to say good night from me. I hope you enjoyed that show. Please think about subscribing. You will get the shows each and every time I release them. And why not check out the videos? Worst science fiction books I have ever picked. Oh, they're there. Check it out. And while you're on, subscribe to the newsletter. You get StarShipSofa's Volume 1 free. Fantastic writers in there. Just sign up for the newsletter and you'll get that.